Liliana Vess, one of the original planeswalkers that made its debut in Lorwyn. We're going to talk about this famous planeswalker that brought us one of the greatest cards of all time, Liliana of the Veil.
We've got another tier list. It's time for you to either love us or hate us. The video starts right now. Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel are Magic. We're going to tier rank all of the Liliana Vesses in Magic the Gathering. But first, if you like the video by the end of it, think about liking and subscribing.
If there's a tier list you want to see in the future, let us know in the comments if it is a cool tier list, or if it's a meme, we might make a tier list out of it.
Let's get into the cards. Where better to start our Liliana tier list than with the OG Liliana Vess herself. It's important to note before we get into this that with this video in particular, we are going to be ranking these in a vacuum against themselves and across all formats. A card might be a superstar in Modern, but absolutely unplayable in Commander, and so it's not going to get an S, even though it's a superstar in Modern. On the other side of that, there will be some cards that are ranked S in here, because like I said, we're ranking them against each other. We understand that an S Liliana in the Liliana tier list might not be as good as a Soul Ring or a Counterspell, but in this tier list, they're ranked against each other. Jake, let's jump into this very first one.
Every disclaimer.
Yes.
Every disclaimer possible.
I think I covered all the bases.
All of the bases, which means that anything we say should just be gravy at this point. So let's talk about Liliana Vess. 2 black, 3 other. Planeswalker. Target player discards a card for +1. -2, search your library for a card, then shuffle your library and put that card on top. And the -8, put all creature cards in all graveyards into play under your control. 5 loyalty when it enters. Just based on, it's not played in Modern. The Cruel Tutor for -2 is kind of underwhelming. Target player discards a card is a little underwhelming. It's an expensive card, so Eternal formats aren't really going to want it. So mostly we're just talking about Commander with Liliana Vess.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. I think that her floor for 5 mana is 2 Cruel Tutors.
Yeah, and she, you need something to protect her, and most likely you have it, whether it's zombies or whatever you have her built into. But
I do have a soft spot for this card and its art. This is, this goes way back for me as a player. I do still run this in my mono black EDH deck just because I've got the foil, and I really love the card. The +1 on Liliana, the target player discards a card, is not hugely impactful, but you can use it to kind of hose whoever's got the least amount of cards in their hand. Like I said, you get 2 tutors, 4 or 5 mana, and then if you can possibly get up to that 8, which I rarely do, I'll admit, in EDH, I use it mostly as kind of alright, you discard a card, it's just kind of a mini hose.
Like a little harassment.
Right, exactly. And then I'm searching up combo pieces to try and close out the game. So where would you drop Liliana Vess?
Yeah, let's rank it.
Yeah.
My gut on this card is that it's a solid C. It's a nice strong C.
Yeah, I think that I like having her right there in the middle as well. I think we can go with that. Our next one,
it's kind of like a nice, it's like the tree. It's the starting point. It's the seed at which everything was kind of developed.
That was very poetic, Jake. I like that.
It's just like this is the starting point. It's right down the middle, and we're going to talk about some really crazy cards.
This is our flip Liliana from the Origins set. On the creature side, we've got 2 black, 1 other for a lifelinking 2/3 human cleric that says whenever another non-token creature you control dies, exile it, return it transformed, and create a 2/2. So of these Origins walkers, this is one of the easiest to flip, especially in EDH. Plus, you get protection right off the bat for your brand new Planeswalker, which says +2, each player discards a card, -X, return a creature card that's not a legend with CMC X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and -8, whenever a creature dies, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. That's any creature, not just creatures you control. But Defiant Necromancer comes in at 3 loyalty, and I hate that, Jake.
Yeah, the 3 loyalty is kind of a bummer. You really are going to want to be able to plus it as soon as you flip it, just because if you want to get any sort of fuel out of the yard, you don't want to be using up all of the loyalty.
Right.
It's surprising to me because I actually, when this card came out in Standard, I know it saw some play. I thought it was going to be a lot more impactful than it was, but it's just like, it's a little slow, honestly, and the Planeswalker, I'm not super thrilled with all of the abilities on it. When you're going through the process of flipping something, I really do want to see like the potency once it is flipped.
Sure.
And there's a lot of cards that have that potency, and I just don't really see it here. I know that it doesn't really see a lot of play in Modern. Maybe it will see play in Pioneer. It's something to think about. I know people have tinkered with it, but I haven't really seen it pop up anywhere.
It didn't even make it into the aggro black deck, which was like running rampant on the top 8s for a while. And so for that reason...
And it has recursion, and it has discard built into it, so if it's not making it into that deck, it might...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It might just not be good.
I like that Liliana doesn't have to attack herself to flip. You know, all we got to do is get another non-token creature to die, and we get the Walker on the other side. Each player is nice for Commander. And then some. I mean,
you do get a zombie when it flips, which is nothing to
that can kind of protect her and be nice. But you know, I just wish it was -4 so that at the very least we could return a creature 4 mana cost from the graveyard to the battlefield. But you know, if you flip her, tick her up, untap, you can return a 5-drop from your graveyard to the battlefield, which you know it's nothing to shake a stick at. Where would you say she falls in relation to that original Liliana, though?
I would say, in relation to the original Liliana, I would rank this card right along the same path, and I would say it's a solid C. Okay,
we're going to drop it into the C style. You know, I think that this one could possibly falter into the D. I do think it's a little bit lower than our Liliana 5 drop, but I do tend to agree with you that it's right there and can definitely live alongside it. Look at this next one we got up. Liliana Dread Horde General. This is one of my favorites.
Dude, what a great card. This card is super duper strong. Came out in War of the Spark. Every mode on this is good. Obviously, it's expensive. 2 black, 4 other. Whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. That's just a passive ability.
What a fantastic passive.
Oh, yeah. And then 6 loyalty. So 6 loyalty for 6. +1, create a 2/2, so some protection. -4, each player sacks 2 creatures. If you have a board full of creatures, you're sacking 2 creatures, you're drawing cards. And then the -9, if you ever get there, is pretty impressive as well. Each opponent chooses a permanent they control of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. So, very strong card.
Yeah.
If you resolve it, it's... What I love about this card is it's kind of like an all-in-one circus.
Right.
You got everything you need going on. You have removal in it. You have the ability to generate creatures. You have the ability to draw cards.
Yeah,
so
and that's really the only 3 parts of this I care about. This card has seen some high-level Standard play. This card is absolutely playable in Commander. Pioneer, the control decks don't really want this because 3-cost Teferi and 5-cost Teferi exist, and so they don't really need to dabble too far into Esper. Even though I'm sure that it would work in a deck like that. Modern, I think it's too slow, and Legacy formats, I don't believe, play it at all.
Yeah.
I, just because of how well it's been in Standard and Commander, how well it's been received, I would rank Liliana Dreadhorde General an S.
I would rank it an A.
Okay.
So we could do like an A+. It's great if you can resolve it, and as far as it versus, you know, its predecessor for 1 mana more, the amount of heat that comes with it.
Right.
I can see where you're saying an S, but we're about to talk about an S.
I'm comfortable with it at an A. I can get down to clown on an A because we do have Liliana of the Veil up next. 2 black, 1 other for a 3 loyalty Liliana. Each player discards a card for the +1, -2. Target player sacks a creature, and -6. A lot of text. Separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles. That player sacrifices all permanent in that pile of their choice. Jake, walk us through Liliana of the Veil.
Well, an amazing modern card. If it were Pioneer legal, it would just dominate the Pioneer format. It's the card that is as close to being broken as can be without being broken. It's like when Jace the Mind Sculptor came out, and it was like, it just flew too close to the sun.
Right.
And so it burned up. It ate a huge ban because it was all over the place. But this card is fair. You get 3 loyalty for 3 mana.
Right.
The +1, if built into the right shell, is just fuel, and it also is awful for your opponent. And then that -2 that gets around pesky things like hexproof that exist in Modern. Sacrifice is one of those things that gets around these certain kinds of effects that can be really, really oppressive.
Yeah.
If you're playing against Boggles and then you're able to get, a sacrifice going, now all of a sudden, all of that totem armor that says would have been destroyed no longer matters. So this card is very, very good. It's obviously an S because of how playable it is. It's super cheap. Let's talk about it in Commander. It loses some potency.
Yeah, it's not as good in Commander, and that's what in my mind brings it down from an S. But I feel like with this one and Liliana Dreadhorde General, when you're looking at them like we are with this tier list in a vacuum, they're both, I think, interchangeable for S and for A. Liliana of the Veil has more of a pedigree. It's definitely been played more often. It's been in the game longer, obviously, but I think over time this card would have been played more often than the 6-cost one anyway, because the 6-cost one, at the end of the day, is either a strong house in Commander or a great top end for a control deck. So I think that this is a good way for these to fall out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. That +1 on Liliana of the Veil in Commander is actually kind of significant because it does say each player discards a card.
Right.
So if you can protect her in such a way where you have like a graveyard deck and you're able to repeatedly get people to discard cards, that does add up and that does need to be answered. So
following those 2 houses up, we've got Liliana the Necromancer from M19, 2 black, 3 other for a 4 loyalty walker. +1, target player loses 2 life. Womp. -1, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. Fine. -7, destroy up to 2 target creatures. Put up to 2 target creatures from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. So, for this ultimate, Jake, we need to take 3 turns of activation and then untap, and we lose our walker to activate it.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Everything about this card is just ugh to me. And
I think it's got some fringe playability in EDH as a budget option. 5 cost, return a card from your graveyard to your hand is maybe 2-3 mana inefficient on how you could achieve that effect on different spells, but you can do it up to 4 times if Liliana doesn't eat some removal. And honestly, not that much of a lightning rod is this card, so the possibility exists that could actually happen. The +1 is wholly irrelevant, and because the +1 is irrelevant, you could be ticking it just to possibly get to that -7 and draw some attacks, and maybe, Liliana essentially gains you some life, but
yeah, for me it's kind of, I would rank it at like a D minus heading into E territory.
Yeah, for sure.
Not enough loyalty for the mana cost. If it's like a graveyard deck and you're able to get that -1 off over and over and over again, that's some good card advantage, but I just feel like there's other cards that I would rather be playing.
You comfortable with an E on that one?
Yeah, I'm fine with an E on that. Let's talk about Liliana Untouched by Death. 2 black, 2 other, 4 loyalty. +1, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie card, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So a little 4-point drain there.
Each opponent, yeah.
Yeah, if each opponent is relevant. The -2 target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. And then -3, you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn.
So this one requires some specific building. And if you're not building that way, the entire walker is irrelevant. You can't just put this into Golgari good stuff deck or any kind of good stuff deck with black cards, in the color base of your commander.
True.
So for commander, if you have a zombie commander deck, dope card. If it is not specifically a zombie tribal deck, big poopy walker.
Big poopy walker. That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, it is specific to zombies. I think it has the biggest chance of taking off in the future in Pioneer as more zombies get spoiled. I think it could make its way into that. But other than that, it's just... Yeah, it's very underwhelming. I think in a zombie commander deck, if you have a lot of mana and like a Cabal Coffers and the ability to like float a lot of mana, I think you can storm off with this card. Just play it for 4, -3, and then just cast your Yard, fill your board back up after like a board wipe. So a little resurgency effect there. I think that the card is... let's go ahead and rank it. We've talked about it a good bit.
Yeah, so I'm either way on this one. I'm either way on this one. It could fall into B or D for me. Because if you're looking at, I like tribal and I want to build zombies, this is like a B card in that deck. But if it's literally anything else, I mean, it gets some points for Pioneer. What do you think?
Well, let's see. So for 4 mana, you can -3. There's a little bit of an opportunity to protect with it.
Right.
There's a little bit of opportunity to gain some serious life versus the opponent. The drain is nice, and in Commander, that drain is gonna be significant. So it kind of fits into like a burn perspective, which is neat for the +1.
Yeah.
But the target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. That is so contingent to what your board even looks like. So that -2 could sometimes be a real nothing, and playing this into an empty board just kind of feels lackluster. Like, you're going to do that +1, sure, you're going to drain your opponent, and you're going to gain 2 life, but what really did you do? So I actually could see it as a D, despite I really do think that it does have some potential in Pioneer.
Yeah, we'll eat our words if we're wrong about this one and it breaks out in Pioneer later. But right now, if it's
not gonna count on it.
No, and remember, if you're building a zombie deck, run out and put this in your deck, please.
Sure.
But if you're not, let's don't. I want to talk about Liliana of the Dark Realms because I have a special place in my heart for this one as well. This is played in my mono black EDH deck. 2 black, 2 other for a 3 loyalty walker. Tick her up to go get a swamp and put it into your hand. Tick her down 3 to either pump a creature XX or minus a creature XX, where X is how many swamps you have. And if you can get her to -6, you get an emblem with swamps you control, add 4 mana to your mana pool instead of 1. This
insane.
This card in a mono black deck is obviously insane. It probably wants to max out in a 2-color commander deck.
Sure.
What about more legacy constructed formats? Obviously, it's got viability in Commander.
Yeah, definitely gonna shine the most in Commander, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't think it really has any sort of modern playability. I'm sure that there's some people that have tinkered with it, but I've never seen a modern deck that really shines with Liliana of the Dark Realms.
No.
That tutorable ability really sets this card apart, though, because being able to ramp with this Liliana, this is the only Liliana that ramps. So the fact that this grabs swamps, and it's specifically swamps, so if you are playing a 2-color deck, it's going to go grab your Bayou or your Badlands or your Blood Crypt or whatever. So I love that about it. It's also going to grab, and this is notable moving forward because Ikoria just spoiled this, but it's going to grab the black triomes.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So a lot of opportunity to fix with this card moving forward, and that's really interesting from a black source.
I want to give this card a B, and I'm going to fully admit that I'm giving it a B for biased.
B for biased, and I'm going to back you up on that.
So B for backing Joel up on his biased Liliana.
B for backing you up on your biased Liliana. But no, dude, I do agree with you. I don't think it has a lot of eternal playability other than Commander. I think Commander is really where that card shines.
For sure. Let's look at Liliana the Last Hope, Jake.
Yes, 2 black, 1 other, 3 loyalty. Up to one target creature gets -2/-1 until end of turn. That's a +1. The -2. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. We're going to talk about that interaction and how nicely it plays with Death Shadow, which is a super cheap card. And then -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is 2 plus the number of zombies you control. So this card debuted, and a lot of people thought, they were like, you know, the +1 is pretty good. It eats mana dorks in certain formats, which is really nice. But the -2 doesn't seem great until people started seeing the power level of it and what you can get back. You can get back stuff like Tarmogoyf, stuff like Death Shadow. And those are, you know, Death Shadow is a 1-cost spell. If you're playing Liliana the Last Hope in a Death Shadow shell, and they've just killed your Death Shadow, now you're playing this Liliana for 3, you're -2, get your Death Shadow back, play it again, and now if your life total's low enough, it's going to have a really high power and toughness. The -7, I never really talk about on this card.
I've never seen it happen. I've played against this card a lot in Pioneer as well. It is a nice
it's fantastic in Pioneer too.
Yeah.
It eats so many relevant cards.
Exactly, and it can slow down some more aggressive decks. A lot of the red decks can really have the brakes.
That
slammed
-2,
on.
dude. That -2 is freaking huge.
Well, and
then
that's huge too.
Yeah. I mean, that -2 on a popular card in Pioneer, like a Bone Crusher Giant, now all of a sudden that Bone Crusher is, you know, negligible. It's a 2/3. It's a lot easier to block.
2/2.
Or actually, no, it's a 2/2.
Yeah, it becomes a bear.
So yeah, I mean, that gets you in range of a lot of stuff. I would rank this card easily solid A+, teetering into S territory.
Yeah, so because, again, for this list, because we are also considering Commander, it loses a lot of potency in Commander, obviously. It's one of those cheap walkers. If you can get it down early, it can really help you take over a game, but as a card drawn late, it's really not going to do what you want it to do. Honestly, late game, I would rather draw a card like Liliana Vess so that I could go tutor something up instead of just
I mean, if you have big
-2,
stuff in the
-1.
yard... Then
maybe.
Yeah, you can play for 3, get something out of the yard.
But I only say that to illustrate that I think it's firmly an A for this list because it doesn't have that kick that you want in Commander, which is funny that I'm putting it in A tier with a card that has a lot of kick in Commander.
A lot of kick, yeah.
All right, Jake, I'm going to introduce Death Wielder to the family here. 2 black, 5 other for an Amonkhet Liliana. 5 loyalty, +2, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature. -3, destroy a creature with a -1/-1 counter on it. And -10, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Your graveyard to the battlefield, not all graveyards to the battlefield. So, Jake, I wanna go back to Amonkhet spoiler season. Do you remember when we saw just the art for this card, and we were kind of crossing our fingers that we were going to get a black-green Liliana? Do you remember that?
You just brought it up, but dude,
I didn't tell him. I didn't tell him that I was
Yeah.
going to remind him about this when we shot this video.
No,
I think we made a whole
thought-
video speculating that Liliana was going to be a black-green walker and how cool that would be to have a Golgari Liliana. Didn't happen.
Oh my god, dude,
Has
that would be so
leaves
sick.
in the art. We were super, super excited about it. However,
How misleading.
7 mana,
5 loyalty.
The best thing it does when it comes in is maybe you've put a -1/-1 counter out somewhere and it can kill something and immediately go down to 2 mana and be right on the red zone. +2, it's
this could
fine.
fit into a Yawgmoth deck.
Yeah, it's got
but
some fringe playability. It could also be in a Hapatra deck. I think it would work really well in a Hapatra deck because then every time you're placing a -1/-1 counter, you're getting snakes and this kind of thing. You got some synergy rolling. However, it just doesn't have the kick that you want it to have in Commander. Jake, is this modern playable?
Oh my god, yeah, it's amazing. The copies are drying up all over the place.
Buy out foil Lilianas if you want to. Liliana Death Wielders if you want to play modern.
I mean, this is just so obviously a dual deck card.
Yeah, this
and,
wasn't.
And I want to be
deck
fair
for
here,
Amonkhet.
but
I'm saying E.
I would give it an F, but yeah, E, sure.
You know what, Jake? This can be our F. You're right. It's just wholly unplayable. It's only playable in the fringy deck.
It's just so expensive.
Only
I'm like, for 7 mana,
right.
What do I really want to put in that 7 mana slot? And there's just big cards. There's like Praetors. There's cards that are super duper relevant.
It's only playable in a fringe theme deck in Commander, and that's just not where you want to be as a Planeswalker. But where you do want to be as a Planeswalker is on a throne eating grapes served to you by zombie mummies.
That's right. That's a perfect way of describing it. Look at that flag bearer over there. Flag bearer from Amonkhet Limited All-Star. But we're not talking about flag bearer. Or fan bearer, I think is the card. Yeah. That's what it is. Liliana Death's Majesty, 2 black, 3 other, 5 loyalty. This is the Amonkhet set mythic. Create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. -3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. And -7, destroy all non-zombie creatures. That's pretty straightforward.
We've got 3 relevant abilities from a Commander perspective. We've got 3 relevant abilities for decks, for really any type of deck that may interact even in a light way with their graveyard. +1 to protect itself immediately, and we're only 1 more turn and an untap, so 2 more turns really, from destroying all non-zombies. That's pretty sick. Plus, as you said and kind of slowed down on, 5 mana to return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. You get a Liliana with 2 loyalty that has these abilities. Not bad for 5 mana. I think in Commander, this one's actually got some legs.
Yeah, I think in Commander it does have legs. A little slow for Eternal formats. Sure. I would love if this took off in Pioneer, but I just those decks are so finely tuned.
Yeah, I don't think that it could.
They're wrapping up by like turn 3 and turn 4 sometimes. So
even in Standard, this didn't see much play, and so in Pioneer, it's kind of even more difficult for it to break out. And there was a zombie deck in Amonkhet, so if it had a home, the home existed. It just didn't come home.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I do think that from a Commander perspective, there's a lot of heat here. That -3 to get back like an Artisan of Kozilek, and then all of a sudden you're returning something else from your graveyard. Like, it's just dirty. In a big stuff deck, I think the card is just absolutely great. I would rank it at a solid B+.
Yeah, I think it's a solid B. And I have to give props to Chris Rollis. This art on this dress here is absolutely sick. Bordering on photoreal. I know this isn't an art tier list. We'll do an art tier list in the future. But I'm telling you, that dress by Chris Rollis is excellent. Liliana, Death's Majesty. We're going to rank it a B. Jake, any final words about where the list fell out visually for you? I think it looks pretty solid.
Yeah, I think we started off with Liliana Vess from Lorwyn. That was kind of like our basis of all of our analysis on these cards and just kind of our impressions of, having played with them over the years. I think that this is in a really good place. And, if you don't agree, please let us know in the comments. We know you will.
That's how we would rank the Lilianas. We have got one of these for each of the 5 original walkers, and depending on when you're watching this, many, many more tier lists in the playlist for you to let us know about your opinion. Our favorite part of these videos is that the conversation continues below. Let us know if you think we messed up on one of these Lilianas.
And also, if there's a tier list in the future that you want us to do, if there's something where you're like, I want you to rank all of these sharks, let us know. If it's funny, if it's a meme, or if it's relevant, if it's something that we think people will want to hear about, we will turn it into a tier list.
If you like this video, you want to see more of them, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you are hanging out with us when a new one drops. If you want to support us further, we got a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. We got monthly giveaways over there. We think it's pretty cool, and we think you will too. We also stream over on Twitch. Go check us out. Jake, I'm tapped out.
And until next time, see you later, Warehouse.
Catch you on the flippity flip.